Yes. Yes. I will mention.
John, we start in 30. We start in 30 seconds. Good morning, Namibia, and welcome to the COVID-19 Communications Center Daily Update at 10 o'clock every morning as we give you an update around COVID-19 in Namibia at this hour. My name is Emma Tiafelis, the Deputy Minister in the Ministry of Information, Communication Technology, and I'll be moderating this session. I'll also be having Ms. Erika Oshona, who is our sign language interpreter, to assist. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, that we continue to ask you to get in touch with us, and that is why this morning we have, for a third time running, a discussion on labor and employment issues. We understand through your emails and inquiries and questions that more of you want clarity around government's interventions around the labor market and ensuring that all of you are catered for in the employment sector. And that's why this morning I'm joined by 3 panelists who will speak about the impact of COVID-19 on labor and in the employment situation in Namibia. And to help me do that, I am joined by Honorable Utoni Nuyoma, who is the Minister of Labor, Industrial Relations and Employment Creation. Thank you very much, Honorable, for joining us. We are also joined by Advocate Vicky Etoivo, who is the Special Advisor to the Minister of Labor. Thank you very much, Advocate, for joining us. And last but definitely not least, we are also joined by Ms. Milka Mungunda, who is the CEO of Social Security Commission in Namibia. Thank you very much, ma'am, for joining us. Like I said, once we open the lines, we'll invite you to call in at the number 061 400 397. That's 061 400 397 for you to give in your questions and queries or to make your statements around the situation on the ground around the labor market. But before we get into that discussion this morning, I'd like to invite the Deputy Minister of Ministry of Health and Social Services, Honorable Dr. Esther Mwinyangwe, to give us our daily health update this morning. Doctor.
Good morning. Thank you, Honorable DM. Morning, Honorable Minister. Morning to our panelists. I understand that by now the journalists know that if it is not the minister coming, then we don't have serious matters to share with the nation. But if it is me, then it means that the status quo remains. And that is true. That's why I'm here. And as I have been saying that every time you have a new person listening to the radio or a new person listening to the television and getting information from the center, so that is why it is necessary, even if we have to repeat what we said yesterday. Hence, we still stand with 6 recoveries, remaining with 10 cases that are in very good condition. They are stable, they are asymptomatic, they don't show any signs. So we still have the recorded 16 COVID cases, of which 6 have recovered. What I need to mention also is that the contact tracing is ongoing, very active, and so far we have done or identified 118 contacts. And when we talk about contacts, we talk about those people who have been in contact with those who have been identified as COVID-19 cases. And out of the 118, there are 8 that we are monitoring very closely. Our team is in a daily contact with them until they finish their 14 days. So that is the update that I have for this morning. And I have to mention that yesterday, 4 o'clock, our team was here, and I'm sure that the journalists, you could ask all your questions that were so pending. What I want to mention is that Dr. Eric, when he was here yesterday on the panel from the World Health Organization, he said something very important. He said that Namibia was #1 in managing HIV/AIDS, and he believes that we will also be one of the countries managing COVID-19. And I do believe, and I'm confident that so far we are doing very well. And we keep on reminding our Namibians to adhere to the rules, the measures, to stay home, to wash their hands with running water constantly, let me say that, and still ask people to minimize their movements, because we are worried. We still see people moving around in the streets. We see a lot of cars moving, and one is really wondering, where are these people going to? So I'm appealing that please stay home, stay safe, because it's the only way how we can keep the further spreading of the virus. To our health workers, who are the frontline workers, we just keep on saying, we love you, we keep you in our prayers, you are constantly on our thoughts, and please remain calm and keep on doing the good work that you are doing. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mwinyangwe, for that update. Again, we are happy to hear that we still have 16 cases in the country and they have not increased and have not registered any deaths. I would also like to make an announcement that I did yesterday, and that is that from the 20th of April 2020, regional constituency councillors are no longer issuing travel permits. They are now being issued by 3 different entities. That is 1, the NAMPO regional commanders and the authorized station commanders; 2, the regional directors of health; and 3, the regional directors of education. So for those of you that want to get travel permits, please contact these authorized officials. But again, as the caution has been, if you do not need a travel permit, please do not take it or go apply for it, because we are trying to ensure that we curb the further spread of the virus. And if you travel unnecessary, you're putting yourself and others at risk. I would now like to therefore get into today's discussion. And I would like to start with the Ministry of Labour. Perhaps I can start with Advocate Yatoivo. Advocate, you were here a while back, and you were speaking about directives that were to come into force around how the Ministry of Labour is going to handle the situation of the labour market in this time of COVID-19. Perhaps could you speak a little bit about that, but also give us an overview of the labour situation in the country?
Well, I think the Minister can speak about the overview of the labour situation. Let me address the directives. Our ministry and the representatives of the trade union federations and the employers' organization have engaged in a round of consultations, and we actually reached a consensus on what should be the prevailing practices during the period of lockdown and looking to the reopening. So we prepared on this basis directives. They were submitted to the Office of the Attorney General. I was informed that they were approved in principle by Cabinet. They have gone through the Attorney General's office and the Ministry of Justice drafters, and they are being really finalized. They will come out, I believe, when the other measures are being gazetted. But we are in a position to give you a summary of what is contained in those directives. I think it's important because employers and workers have been looking for guidance. So just in brief, During the period of lockdown, an employer may not dismiss an employee, serve a notice of retrenchment in terms of Section 34 of the Labor Act, terminate its employment relationship with an employee, or send an employee home on unpaid leave or forced annual leave or sick leave. Now, we know some of these things have been happening, but they're not permitted, and if they were done, employers are expected to reinstate their employees and to discuss with them any issues relating to terms and conditions of employment. If they want to change conditions of employment, of course, they can sit down and work out something that works for both the employer and for the workers, all right? That's number one. Anybody who has been dismissed in violation of what we just said, it's a violation of the law. It's subject to penalties. And also, if an employer had already served a notice of retrenchment to the employees, where the law requires a 4 weeks notice, that period of 4 weeks is deferred until after the lockdown. So the basic idea that we had was, in order to meaningfully negotiate, or even to come up with measures to avoid retrenchment, we have to do this in a period of time where it's possible. It's really not possible during this period of lockdown. The employers will have a more realistic view of how their business is going to go, whether it will resume operations with how many people, whether they are contemplating closing. Then a meaningful discussion of retrenchment can take place. So there will be no dismissals pursuant to a notice of retrenchment, at least until 28 days after the end of the period of lockdown. And I will add that if the parties are negotiating and they do not reach an agreement, under the law, the matter can be referred to the Labor Commissioner for an additional period of conciliation during which dismissals cannot take place. Just maybe two other important points. Employers are expected to put in place safety measures that will prevent the further spread or the spread of the COVID-19 virus. Now, in the Labor Act, there is a provision, Section 42, which basically says an employee who has a reasonable belief that the working conditions are not safe has a right to leave work as long as the employer is notified of the reason, and the employee will not be penalized. They will not suffer a loss of pay or job security. Now, in addition, under the regulations, if an employer has not come up with prevention measures, the employees also are entitled to leave work. Finally, the Labor Act has provision for paid sick leave. In the directives, it will indicate not only may an employee claim paid sick leave if they contract the virus, but also for a period of quarantine or self-isolation, and also if they have to stay home to take care of a family member for the same reasons. The Social Security Act also has an extended sick leave provision if those benefits are exhausted. So any member of the Social Security Commission will be able to claim the extended sick leave benefits if needed. In addition, the directives recognize the COVID-19 and COVID-19 related post-traumatic stress disorder as industrial diseases in terms of the Employee Compensation Act. What this means is that employees who contracted the virus or are suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder related to this arising from employment, from during employment, they will be entitled to claim benefits from the Employee Compensation Fund. So in brief, we have addressed issues of employment security, wages, and health and safety. And these are, as new issues arise, the social partners, that is to say the ministry and the representatives of workers and unions, will continue to discuss.
Thank you very much, Advocate. I think those directives are very well thought out, really, to one, mitigate the situation we're in, but also looking forward to even post-COVID-19. Perhaps now I'll move over to Honorable Utoni Nuyoma to talk about really at this point, one, the impact of COVID-19 on the labor market, but also secondly, the experience of the Ministry of Labor in trying to balance the interest of employers and employees during this time.
Yes, thank you very much, Deputy Minister, Honorable Emma, for this opportunity. I should start by thanking the frontline workers, our health workers, the nurses and the doctors for working so hard. We have heard from the Deputy Minister of Health that we are still maintaining the status quo. And I think that is very important. It is because the general public there is also maintaining discipline. During this epidemic, the COVID-19, I think discipline remains the central issue, and we should encourage our people. Yesterday, I took a tour through Commercedal, and I could observe that our people are still not adhering to the distance, to keep the safe distance. And also in the supermarkets, there is no discipline. But I think so far we have done well. We don't know what will happen. We must maintain the status quo while testing and continuing testing. And for me, it appears that the curve is stabilizing, and we have so far 16 cases. I think that is remarkable, and the recoveries are increasing. We were told by the Deputy Minister that we 10 recoveries. I think we are doing well. If you look at the neighboring countries, they are also trying very hard. But coming back to the labor market, I think our labor market have been in turmoil since COVID came into force worldwide, and as a result, the labor market has been in turmoil. A lot of job losses worldwide, and millions have lost work, and that's why here in Namibia we instituted the social dialogue with our partners, that is the workers' representatives, the trade unions, as well as the employees' representatives. They were also here, and that's why we have devised those guidelines, which Madam Vicky have just highlighted now. That during this difficult time, we need to hold hands. The workers, the employees, the retrenchments must not be encouraged. We should really make sure that there is no retrenchments, there is no massive redundancies. We need to hold hands, because before COVID came into being, the workers has been working for all these years for their employers. Without,
Honorable Minister, you can just use the handheld mic that's on the table to your left. Yes, you can use that one. You can use that one for now.
Yes, I was saying, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So I was saying that our workers have been working for all these years. Some of them have worked for 20 years, 13 years. Of course, the employers must have benefited from the labor of these workers. So at the Ministry of Labor, as the coordinator of employment creation and also the regulator of the labor market, we encourage social dialogue. When there is problems, if now that there has been the state of emergency since it came into being, workers have been told to stay at home and wages have been reduced. We say it is good if the workers and the employees could sit around the table and negotiate possible solutions. As the President has said, during this time we need to hold hands so that there is we don't need unnecessary job losses. So we have sat down with our social partners, we have negotiated these guidelines which Member Vicky have just highlighted. But we should also be cognizant of the fact that COVID-19 is causing havoc all over the world, not only in Namibia. And that's why I think, and I would like to appeal to the workers, let's sit down, let's discuss. Let's not create unnecessary job losses at this particular time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, for that. I think the call is very loud and clear. I now move over to Ms. Mungunda from the Social Security Commission. Ms. Mungunda, we understand that the Commission launched a stimulus package on the 7th of April that it would like to roll out. We would like to know, especially from the viewers at home, what categories this package is going to entail, the type of beneficiaries, the application process, the duration of this benefits, and any other information really that you deem important for both your members and the public to know about.
Yes, good morning, and thank you so much. I'll just continue from where the Minister stopped. Yes, Social Security, as you rightfully said, prepared for, or we've decided to be part of the COVID-19 response. At this point in time, between Social Security and the Ministry of Finance, we have got a joint committee and we are working together how we are going to address this issue. Between the two, we have identified 9 sectors which we are going to consider. Now, these are the sectors which we, from all the information which we gathered, from the research we've done and so on, have been regarded as the hardest hit sectors. And maybe just to brief you, we are talking about the construction industry, the farming industry, manufacturing, retail, services, transport, tourism and hospitality, domestic workers, and entertainment. These are the ones which we have identified. I must, however, hasten to mention that going forward, if there are other sectors which we have not mentioned and which are hard hit, we are not closing the door for those sectors. We are opening the door also so that they can also then come and benefit from the sectors. Now, generally, what we are going to do is, as I mentioned, there are 3 phases that we are going to have within Social Security. The first aspect is going to be for the formal employer sector, which is the employer wage subsidy program, which we have introduced. What that basically means is that the whole objective is for us to make sure that we can save jobs. We are trying by all means to see how many jobs we can save. Now, factors which are affected will receive a subsidy of a total wage bill. The details, I think we are still going to announce at a later stage, but I can just mention that yes, we are going to provide a wage subsidy to the employers. And what will also happen is that, of course, it will not just be mahala, there will be conditions attached to that. We also want the employers to agree not to retrench any staff for the 3 months in question. For us, the 3 months, it's April, May, and June. And again, the employers should also not reduce the staff salary by more than 50%. We are going to give more details about all that. Now, all this, we are also going to make sure that if you have received other compensation, then obviously you'll not qualify for this. So what will happen is that the government, through the Ministry of Finance, will also assist together with Social Security, as I said, the wage bill subsidy. Now, in addition to that, we are also going to look at employees who are vulnerable, the formal vulnerable employees. Now, when we say the formal, for the sake of COVID-19, we are looking at the Social Security database. So everybody, when we talk about formal, everybody who is a member of Social Security as of 1st of February 2020 and who are paid up members, those are the ones we're referring to. Again, our objective is to provide a safety net for these people who have been affected adversely by COVID-19. What will also happen is that we are going to have certain conditions. For instance, one of the conditions is that you should not earn more than 50,000 per annum. And of course, you have to be registered with Social Security as of 1st of February 2020. And you are going to benefit for 3 months' salary, which is limited to about 50% of your monthly salary. And we're also going to go through the details. And again, in addition to that, we want to make sure that everybody who is going to be assisted by Social Security will not get less than 1,000 per month. So if you have been receiving less than 1,000 from your employer, unfortunately, or should I say fortunately, this will be the time that we are going to give you 1,000, minimum 1,000 Namibian dollars per month. Now, we are also not going to leave out the informal sector. Now, when we talk about the informal sector, we're referring to those people who are not registered with Social Security. And what we are doing is that we are in negotiation with the municipalities, the NDC, the different hawkers association, organized labor, organized informal sector associations, so that we can also see how we can assist them. Again, we are not just going to assist just like that. There are going to be conditions. You have to prove that you have lost income because of COVID. If you are not registered with Social Security, that will be a condition. For you to benefit from this, you have to be registered with Social Security, and you must come and register. We are going to give you a Social Security number. And the condition is for the first 12 months, you must be continuously a contributory member to the Social Security. And of course, there will be other conditions that we are going to put. What we are going to do is we are going to have our website, Social Security website, and all the conditions and everything is going to be on the website. We are going to interact with our members through the website, and you will download whatever is needed. You will tick on the website whatever is needed, and that will be automatically downloaded to our back office. And then from there, we are going to do the payments and everything.
Before you continue, Ms. Mungunda, let me just remind our viewers and listeners at home that the lines are now open. You may call in at 061 400 397. That's 061 400 397 to ask your questions. You may continue, ma'am.
Yes, maybe just in conclusion, we have to be cognizant of the fact that we are trying to assist where we can. It may not be a perfect system, but I think under the circumstances, we are doing our best. And we should also be, as the minister said, it should be a dialogue, and it should be an approach of us. It shouldn't be an approach of we against you, because we are all in this together, the employers, the employees, everybody. And we should all try by all means to see how we can help each other and to overcome this COVID-19, especially during this lockdown period.
So Ms. Mingunda, if I get you correctly, the stimulus package caters for the situation now during the state of emergency and lockdown, and of course, post-COVID-19 as well, because you speak about some of the benefits going until June. Is there a longer plan post even that, post-June, that the Social Security Commission has considered to assist those that might have suffered the most during this period?
Yes, we have considered the post-COVID-19. What we intend to do with the post-COVID-19 is, if there are people who may have lost their jobs, especially in the informal sector, due to COVID-19, and who probably need to be retrained, re-educated to develop skills, that is where we'll kick in with our development fund. So we'll provide for training, grants, loans, and also help some people to see how they can then recover from their losses. But again, it will not be everybody, because we are going to have strict conditions so that we want to close the loop as much as possible for any fraudulent claims that could come through.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mungunda. I'm not getting any phone calls yet, so I would like to call the media practitioners here to ask any questions. Are there any questions to the panelists? Yes, sir, the floor is yours.
My name is Timo Andreas from NBC TV. The first question goes to Advocate Yatoivo. For those employees who find themselves in danger because their employers do not want to adhere to or to implement preventative measures, and these employees decide that they are going home. By the time they come back, they might be told that you are no longer on our payroll. What is the law saying, the way forward? Can you just maybe expand it further to a layman? And the next question goes to the Social Security Commission. It is during such times that we are provoked to interrogate some of the debates that were never exhausted, especially the setting up of the National Pension Fund, for which the Social Security Commission is responsible for. When is the Social Security setting up this fund? The next question goes to the Honorable Minister.
That's the last one.
Okay. Is there anything that the ministry can do to avoid the widespread of layoffs during this period, even if it means to change the law and ensure that people remain in employment, maybe even if their pays are cut? Can I squeeze in the last one?
That was the last one. Thank you very much, Mr. Andreas.
Thank you.
All right. Before I give over to the panel to respond, I would like to get Sebastian from Windhoek, who's on the line. Sebastian?
Yes, good morning, Minister. How are you?
I'm very good. How are you doing?
Very well.
You may go ahead, sir.
Okay, I have got two questions.
Okay.
Yeah, the first one is that I would like to know from the Minister of Health what measures do they put for people like disabled people who are deep in the village. Some they are living alone in their house. Do they some have people there around the village, especially deep in the bush there, who can go and attend to them, especially those who cannot hear radios, transmissions, other things? What do we do to these people? Because we are already experiencing some of the people who are down there and there are no people to attend to them. What are those measures that they put there?
All right. The second one?
The second one will be, maybe it's out of this today's discussion, but we have experienced people who lost a job, but they were paying taxi before. So when they applied for this 750, they were replied to text that you are currently rejected due to that you were paying, you are taxpayer. But then that person was maybe paying taxi by 2015 or 2017 or maybe 2001, somewhere there. but they are no more currently employed. What do they have to do in this situation? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sebastian. The first question was around people in remote areas. How is the ministry going to reach those? The second one will relate to the Ministry of Finance to respond to those who are still on the tax database and therefore could not qualify for the 750 emergency income grant. So perhaps we can just tackle the first question and those by Mr. Andreas.
The question about workers who leave the place of work because of the danger and then they find they have been terminated, their employment has been terminated. The law is very clear that they are protected. They may not be terminated. If the employer has terminated, they must inform the employee that they're leaving, or in this case, if they come back to work and find that no safety measures have been in place, they decide not to go to work, they must simply inform the employer of their reasons for not working. Now, their belief must be reasonable, of course, but their recourse is to lodge a complaint with the Labor Commissioner of unfair dismissal and the violation of Section 42 of the Labor Act, which gives them the right to leave the place of work. They are protected by law.
Honorable Minister?
Yes, I did not really grasp the essence of the question, but I think we have, in all the 14 regions, we have our offices and we have labor inspectors in all those. If there are problems...
Just the mic a bit closer.
Yes.
Yes.
We have our labor inspectors also in the 14 regions. So if there is any report of unfair dismissals, they will go and investigate. Of course, right now we are not in a position to give you the full information of how many job losses we have occurred during the COVID period. But prior to that, as you know, our economy was also not doing very well. So there were retrenchments. When it comes to retrenchment, there are procedures in the Labor Act that need to be followed. You have heard of cases like the Roshpina there, where about 1,500 workers were dismissed because they have followed the procedures in the Labor Act. There must be sufficient notice, reconciliation, and so forth and so forth. Those are taking their course because the provisions of the Labor Act has not been lifted. So we are just appealing, and we continue to appeal to the workers that during this period we should just hold hands and not to dismiss the workers.
Thank you very much.
May I add something?
Yes.
The listener was asking about what can be done to avoid retrenchments even if it requires changing the law. The fact of the matter is the law is not rigid. The law allows negotiations. In the directives, when they come out, you will see that employers can propose reductions in wages or deferral of wage payments. This can be negotiated. There's also a provision in the Labor Act which permits employers to reduce the hours of work and accordingly to reduce remuneration up to 50%. That's the limit. So the right to bargain and this provision which I mentioned, which is contained in Section 12, sub 6 of the Labor Act, they're available. I really believe that the law will afford those opportunities. If there's a need to change the law, of course we can look at it, but I think it's really a question of negotiation.
Thank you very much, Advocate. Before I give you an opportunity, Ms. Mungunda, we have another caller. We have Daniel from Warfish Bay. Daniel?
Yeah.
You may go ahead, sir.
Okay, just want to ask you about the fund from social security. I hear that my mayor is asking is like those who are deducted now on January 2020. Although we know we have some workers as a fishermen or going on a strike at 2015. We want to also paying the social security. I want to know what about those people in Australia with the post-administrative and the fishermen did not get anything from social security about this payment for COVID-19?
Daniel, could you just repeat your question? You're not very clear. Just be a bit more specific to what your question is.
I want to know if the social security, follow that fisherman is sending the post-administrative, she was paying the social security. But now, what about the fund? Those social security can give. Also, she can receive the fund from social security.
Okay, is it those who get 50,000 and above that don't qualify for the stimulus package who are members of Social Security? Is that the question?
Yeah.
Okay, what?
The own number for social security, the card for social security was paying social security.
But they're contributing to Social Security. Okay, thank you very much, Daniel, for that question. Before you answer those two, Ms. Mungunda, let's just take a question from a journalist on the floor. Yes, ma'am?
Good morning. I'm Dapiwa Shale from Eagle FM. I have two questions for the Minister of Labour, and I think the advisor, Advocate Yatoiba, can also assist. Now, we do know that from the beginning, not only from April or March already, there were matters that have been reported of workers, employees who were sent home on mandatory leave, unpaid leave. How is the Labour Ministry making sure that even those who are afraid to come out and report this, how are you chasing these people and making sure that they are taken care of? And also, does the ministry have any companies, any entities that they've already identified that made themselves guilty of contravening these regulations, that they're not supposed to retrench, they're not supposed to send people on mandatory leave? And then number two, also, there has been a change, and this is, I think, directed to the minister, there has been a change in the workplace. For example, there are certain activities, because of the change in how people are working from home, other people's positions may have become redundant or now have shown that they are redundant. Is the Ministry of Labour, simultaneously while dealing with this matter, looking at the future workplace and how they can collaborate with maybe the education, basic and higher education, on ensuring that the higher, that education, that the future in the workplace is also dealt with in the education? And then with Social Security, ma'am, you said that you're looking at April, May and June. What about those who've already started losing income in, let's say, February and March?
Thank you very much. Let us get to responses. We begin with you, Ms. Mungunda.
Yes, I'm going to start with the last question, but before I go to the last question, I must just mention that from Social Security, we agreed that we are going to give employers a contribution holiday for 3 months. What that means is that both the employer and the employee for those affected sectors will not force them to pay their contributions for the 3 months. So there is also one way to alleviate the financial burden on both the employer and the employee. Now, in addition to that, I must mention that the COVID-19 has got its own consequences. But in addition to that, if we have to be honest, it has given us an opportunity of reviewing ourselves and our systems. Now, this brings me to the question about the National Pension Fund. Yes, we are quite advanced as far as the National Pension Fund is concerned. In fact, we were going to come up with the real policy. Unfortunately, we had to put everything at hold at this point in time. So hopefully after the entire COVID-19, after the lockdown, we will resume with the discussions and then coming up with a policy formulation before it becomes a law. Now, this brings me also to the other aspect of Namibia not having an unemployment insurance fund. I think the situation has now opened it up for us to seriously consider an unemployment insurance fund. And going forward, from the side of Social Security, definitely we are going to work very hard. We already started actually, because we are also amending our act to include that. But going forward, this has become an urgency, so it's going to be part of our priorities. Now, the other question which was asked was about those who contribute but may not be considered to be considered for the payments. Yes, if you are a contributory member of Social Security and you have not been affected by COVID-19, obviously it will be unfair that we should pay out to you compared to those who have really suffered. And I'm going to give you an example. For instance, somebody said yesterday, the asset managers. The asset managers are not adversely affected in terms of their salaries by COVID-19 because they can go home, they can work from home, they can do everything from home. So they are not adversely affected. But they are members of Social Security, they are contributory members of Social Security. Obviously, those are the people we are not going to consider. So that's why we identify specific sectors which are affected. But if we have missed out, and some of the sectors which really suffered, it fell through the crack, we are open to consider them. So yes, you can come to us, and then we can always look at it, and then we can consider you with the conditions which we have applied. Then the other question was also, as Social Security,
Have you considered those who had lost an income from
yes,
February?
those who have lost income before COVID. The unfortunate thing is the response which Social Security is putting on the table is a COVID-19 response. And it is unfortunate that we will not be able to consider those who lost income before the COVID-19. And that is why even we are making a point that for you to benefit, you have to be a member of Social Security as of 1st of February 2020.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mungunda. Honorable Minister, questions?
Yes. I had the question from Dr. Oshali, but I think she was talking about the post-COVID, what are we going to do with the workers? Or
Yeah.
did I get the gist of the question?
Yes, because some work will be redundant.
I think the labor sector will undergo fundamental changes from now on. Some people will start working from home. So as a ministry, we need to devise some strategies of retraining, reskilling, and lifelong learning measures, so that we make sure that the workers still continue to work. Those who will work from home, fine, but those ones who will be needed in other industries, because the world is changing now. We have technologies, robotics that will replace everything. Right now in advanced countries like China, people no longer carry purses, they just purchase everything, facial recognition and so on and so on. So the world is changing. So as a labor ministry, we should also be prepared so that we devise strategies together with industry of retraining our people, reskilling and lifelong learning.
Thank you very much.
That's in short what I could answer Dr. Shali.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Advocate, would you like to respond to? Yeah.
Well, we started this discussion already for the 100th anniversary of the ILO. Before that time, there was a commission looking at the future of work. A lot of work at an international level has been done in this area, and we intend to Namibianize this discussion. It's a discussion, again, it's a question of social dialogue, because we want to find a way to bring about these changes in a way that it doesn't harm people. People are not simply, the minister has really covered it. It's a question of planning, it's a question of social dialogue, And it requires not only the employers and the workers and government, but the academic institutions to come with their proposals on how we can best make the transition. All of this talk about the fourth industrial revolution. Just remember, we may not have had the third industrial revolution yet in Namibia, but we're in the world. And so there are many challenges, but I think, again, if we make it a specific topic of national dialogue, we'll come up with solutions.
Thank you very much, Advocate. I have an opportunity for 2 more questions from the media.
So I only get 2 questions.
Yes.
Good morning. Esther Kamati from Namibia Media Holdings. My first question is to the Minister. How are companies exactly going to benefit from tax exemptions and the economic stimulus package? Maybe you could clarify as to who qualifies and what is the process. Secondly, if I understood Advocate Yatoivo correctly, she mentioned that no dismissals or retrenchments should be made before the 28-day lockdown period. Is the ministry keeping track of people who have been retrenched or who have been dismissed from their jobs? So is it up to the individual to seek the necessary legal action?
Thank you.
Lastly,
Quickly, to the point.
Okay, lastly, the Deputy Minister of Health, how many people does the ministry intend on testing before the lockdown is lifted on the 5th of May, and has mass testing started?
Thank you. Quickly, sir. You may have the floor.
I have one question. Andrew Katendi from Windhoek Observer. For the Social Security, how much has been budgeted for this stimulus package? And considering that maybe 4 months ago, none of us knew about COVID, how is this going to impact in terms of the Social Security itself, and have provisions been made for that impact?
Thank you very much. That's very direct. I'd like to remind our media practitioners here and the viewers and listeners at home that the health update is just that, it's a health update. However, the DM of health is always available to answer questions, but also more importantly, the 4 o'clock session also caters for more questions and interactions. So I'd like to give over to the Minister. There's a question around who qualifies for the tax exemption from the company side.
Well, as you are aware, the government has rolled out this emergency basic income grant of 750, which will come at the end of this month. And then Social Security, we are devising measures as to how can we deal. But for the formal sector, I think the CEO of Social Security have answered, and she will also provide the details as to how much money will be made available, and taking into account that we have a fund, and we have to maintain sustainability of that fund. We don't know as to how, come the 4th of May, we don't know, maybe the pandemic will escalate and so on. So we have to be prudent, but she will elaborate further on that question.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Maybe I could move over to Ms. Mungunda to answer some of the questions before I get to Advocate, but also if you could please just give some concluding remarks at the end.
Yes, thank you so much. As far as the tax incentives are concerned, I think the Ministry of Finance has been talking about it. But in addition to that, we also said that we are going to give the employers a contribution holiday for 3 months. And I think that contribution holiday is also going to be part of the tax incentives, which are going to be considered by the Ministry of Finance. As far as the budget is concerned, yes, we have budgeted between Social Security and the Ministry of Finance. We have budgeted approximately a little bit more than 700 million. And that is the 700 million that we are going to roll out to the formal sector. Now, when I talk about the formal sector again, if I can just repeat, it's those people on our payroll. And then the informal sector and the post-COVID is going to be covered completely by Social Security. Then the other question is about the impact and the provisions which we've made as Social Security. Yes, COVID-19 is going to have a serious impact on the employment sector. And Social Security relies on the informal and on the formal sector, on the employment. We expect a big reduction of membership to the Social Security, in the sense of there will be quite a number of retrenchments. Maybe after COVID-19, after the 3 months, some companies are going to suffer. They will also reduce the salaries of some of the staff. So obviously that will have a serious impact on Social Security. But what is it that we are doing? We are preparing ourselves to see how we can mitigate the situation. But we also are aware that with the COVID-19, many people would come with sick claims. And it's definitely going to affect our employment compensation fund. So yes, from that perspective, we are also looking at how we can mitigate the kind of situations. And that is why in this whole process, we looked at all the scenarios, and then we took about 10% of our total assets that we have budgeted for addressing this COVID-19, so that at least we have something left going forward after COVID-19.
All right. Are those also in part of your formal final remarks?
Our final notes or our final comments is we want to start as soon as possible with the rollout, and we'll open our website. We are going to make the announcements. But we are also appealing to the public that we really wouldn't want to take any phone calls during this period, because we are running, we don't have enough staff because of the COVID. We are all working from homes, and we are only going to work on the systems. So we'll appeal to the public not to make any phone calls about, should I be paid, haven't I been paid, when am I going to be paid? Give us time so that we can work out, so that we can work behind the scenes. And wherever possible, we'll make sure that we'll communicate to the members on a timeous basis. But we are not going to take any phone calls during this period, especially related to COVID-19.
Thank you.
And after COVID-19, even if we are going to take phone calls, we'll urge everybody, please, not to call us for COVID-19 until such time that we have paid out whatever is supposed to be paid out.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mangunda. Ms. Advocate, question about do we have any records of those that have been already laid off by employers, and how is the ministry going to assist? And just also your concluding remarks.
I'm not sure I understood. Do we have records?
Yes, or statistics of employees that have been laid off currently since the beginning of COVID-19 in Namibia.
As the Minister said, we don't have those records at present. We have some information, but we expect to be able to gather comprehensive information, particularly as applications are being made for the wage subsidies. And there also, I want to mention, and I hope I can find it, I think the number, the ministry has a toll-free SMS line. It's 66111. I would encourage any employer or employee who has a question or a complaint to please contact us. Some employers have sent notices of retrenchment, and they've sent copies to our ministry. Some employees, many employees have been calling, have been sending these text messages. And I should add, our labor inspectors have during this period conducted a number of labor inspections. So we have some idea, but we don't have the information. But obviously we need it. We need all of this information. When the lockdown is over, we don't want to go back to the way things were before. We want to go forward in a more employment-centered way, in a way that's going to take into account the needs of both employers and workers, but not with unilateral actions, not giving preference to those with power or who are greedy. So we will try to get as much information, and we really encourage you to please provide information to us during this period of time. It's 66111.
Thank you very much, Advocate. Honourable Minister, any final remarks?
Yes, thank you very much, Deputy Minister. I would just like to encourage the employees and the workers to cement the social dialogue during this period. If there is any issue of retrenchment or layoffs, please let the people sit around the table and try to discuss so that we can find solutions to those problems. As you have been told, Social Security will inject an amount of almost 700 million so that the employees can benefit from that grant in order to maintain the operations of the SMEs and the businesses during this period, as well as the employees. Those, we know that a lot of sectors have suffered severely. You talk of the tourism sector, construction sector, and the other sectors that has been impacted severely. So let's make use of this money so that we make sure that the employees as well as the employers do not suffer.
Thank
And
you.
Finally, please, let's hold hands. Let's maintain the social distance. Probably we are now, as I said at the beginning of my statement, that the curve is now almost leveling, and we should not make things easier, and we should make it easier for the Ministry of Health that has been tasked primarily with this important role of maintaining the health of our people. The health of our people remains priority number one. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. Thank you to the panelists, Ms. Mungunda, Honourable Nyoma, and Advocate Joteva for coming in and giving us information around the state of the labour market and the employment situation in Namibia this morning. Viewers and listeners at home, thank you for tuning in by calling in at the number 061-400-397 as usual, as well as sending your questions to our email address covid.nam@mict.gov.na. This is how we are able to derive what topics to discuss. And that's why this afternoon, as a matter of urgency, we're going to talk about the trade activities under lockdown, where the Ministry of Trade and Industrialization will come, as well as the Namibia Competition Commission, to talk about trade permits, essential services, as well as prices at retail shops in the country. So please join us at 4 o'clock as we discuss those, and of course continue sending in your questions before the session so that they're able to be addressed as we discuss the matter. Thank you for being with us. See you this afternoon.